In this STEM challenge, you will be creating an animal habitat. Now remember, you are an engineer, and in this project, you will be an engineer and solve a problem. Engineers are creative, they are problem solvers, they work in teams, and they don't give up. You will always be using the engineering design process, and it's no lie for this project as well. So your group will be going through the engineering design process to solve the problem. Your process may look different depending on the school and classroom you're in, but generally it's ask, research, plan, build, test, and share. Now, first off, you are going to have criteria for your project. And remember, a criteria or criterion is a guideline or guidelines for a design project. Your group is required to meet these criterions to complete the challenge. In addition to criteria, you're also going to have constraints. Now, it sounds similar, but it's a little different. These are the limitations or restrictions. So some of the things your teacher may restrict is time and resources that your group has to follow. And so an example of this is your teacher will say you have 20 minutes to finish. That is a time constraint. For this specific project, you are going to continue on with the animal structures and functions unit. So you have learned about all of that, and now you have even learned about animal camouflage with their backgrounds, and some animals have long necks. So you've learned a lot about different animal structures and why they are to be. And so you are going to pick an animal and think about their structures and the functions or purpose they have. When you think about your animal and the different structures and functions, you're going to think about its habitat. What habitat would suit the needs of that animal? So the problem in this design is going to be, how do you build a shoebox habitat for an animal? What habitat would suit the needs of that animal? Your criterion for this project, it could look different depending on what your teacher decides, but it could also be that you're going to be building a shoebox habitat with everyday items from outdoors or at home. You can use the sticks, the leaves, dirt you find outside, pebbles, you can also find things at the house, whether they are felt or you make them yourself with crayons and paper, but you can use anything you have in those spaces. Your habitat also has a size criterion, so it must be 12 inches by 12 inches, no bigger than that. Another criterion you will be graded on is, did your habitat stay intact when it was moved around, or did it fall apart? Now, in addition to that, you will have constraints, and your constraints will look different. Your teacher may have you building it in the classroom with your group, and you might have a time restraint like 60 minutes. You can also be using up to a certain amount of materials, and your teacher may say no tape or adhesives, but this is all depending on the teacher. Now remember, in the first step, ask. In this step, you will individually write down what the problem is you are trying to solve. How do you want to accomplish it to be successful in this project? So once you figure out what problem you're solving, you get to move on. Next step is research. In the research step, you will think about what you've learned about animals. You can go back into your journals and read all the responses you've written. You can even go look online for some more information about animals. And think about all that. Once you've thought out all your information and brainstormed topics for your ideas, I want you to choose an animal and start planning. You will get with your group as well to start thinking about what animal you will be deciding and how you will want to create that habitat. You'll make a sketch of what you want your final product to look like, and make sure you are labeling on your piece of paper what materials you will be using or what materials you want to be using or collecting. You may also jot down the steps of how you will be building it. If you do not have a shoebox, you can think of ways on how to create a box using cardboard. Next step is building. It's usually a very fun step, and your teacher will let you know where and when you will be building. Finally, you will be testing. So your teacher will be measuring your animal habitat by how big it is and moving it from one location to another to make sure that it is not moving around.